Phil Ivey is widely considered the best poker player ever. He went from playing in small poker games to now playing in some of the most exclusive poker games in the world. But his rise to the top didn't come easy. He spent years and years perfecting his game. He's had both million-dollar wins and million-dollar losses. And he's experienced a few controversies along the way. But through it all, his legacy remains as one of the greatest poker players in the world. Phil Ivey was born Philip Dennis Ivey Jr. on February 1st, 1977 in Riverside, California. Ivey was born into a large family, a family that was very close-knit, and at a young age they all moved to Roselle, New Jersey, where Ivey spent most of his childhood years. As a kid, Ivey's family didn't come from a lot of money, but they were hardworking and well-respected in the community. Growing up, Phil Ivey and his family often had family game night, where everyone would get together and play cards and board games. Ivey's grandfather would also host game nights, where he set up friendly poker games with friends from the neighborhood. After seeing his grandfather playing poker, Ivey's interest in the game began, and at 8 years old he asked his grandfather to teach him how to play. The first game his grandfather taught him was 5-card stud, and the two would play, betting with pennies. As Ivey got into his teenage years, he continued to play in casual poker games and tournaments with friends. But soon he needed more of a challenge and wanted to play with higher stakes. So Ivey set his sights on Atlantic City, which was 2 hours from his home. His only problem is he was 16 years old and too young to gamble inside of a casino. But Ivey was determined to get to the bigger games, so he got a fake ID and started going by the name Jerome Graham. By the age of 17, Ivey was a regular in Atlantic City casinos, playing blackjack, craps, and poker for up to 15 hours a day, all while using his fake ID. He became known to casino workers and players as Jerome, the kid who played poker all day. But Ivey wasn't winning at first. In fact, it took a couple years to get there, and he once lost 6 months straight. But he never gave up and kept coming back. He had a part-time job as a telemarketer, and after each loss, he would go home, save some money from his job, then be back on the 2-hour bus ride to the Taj Mahal Casino to play again. A couple of times he even had to sleep under the Atlantic City boardwalk after missing the bus back home. None of this discouraged Ivey from his goal, and after high school he decided he was going to be a professional gambler and poker player. Neither his parents nor his grandfather liked the idea at first, but Ivey had made his mind up. In a 2014 interview with Bluff magazine, Ivey said, "I just thought in my mind, I'm going to make this work, and I didn't have another option. I never even thought there was any way I was not going to be a successful poker player." Ivey studied the game of poker hard and played over 100 hours a week for years. He also took notes in journals for years, analyzing every hand he was dealt and how he and his opponent played in different situations. Soon, he was able to start playing for higher stakes at tables and winning larger amounts of money. He got to the point where he could quit his job as a telemarketer and work full-time as a professional gambler. At the age of 21, Ivey's first major win came at the Jack Binion World Poker Open, where he won $53,000. And by the age of 25, he had won 4 World Series of Poker tournaments, the biggest and most famous poker tournament in the world. Eventually, Ivey left Atlantic City and came back to the West Coast, where he knew most of the high-stakes professionals lived and played poker. One of his first stops was the California's Commerce Casino in Los Angeles. Here, his game advanced even more as he went from playing $400 to $800 games up to $4,000 to $8,000 games. This is also where he first met Barry Greenstein, a professional poker player with 3 World Series of Poker wins. Greenstein believed in Ivey's skills as a poker player. He helped and encouraged Ivey to play bigger, and he also got Ivey into the big game at the Bellagio, a poker game that's exclusively for high rollers. Ivey and Greenstein became good friends, traveling the world playing poker together. Once, they were involved in a robbery in Paris, in which a gunman entered a casino attempting to rob the money cage while they were playing cards. Neither was hurt, and in an online interview with Joe Ingram, Greenstein said that he and Ivey actually joked about their poker hands during the robbery. After a move to Las Vegas, Ivey's high-stakes gambling continued. Playing at all the big games on the Las Vegas Strip, he became more famous, and people started calling him the Tiger Woods of poker. Ivey became known for being a fierce competitor, successfully throwing poker opponents off their game with his fearless style of play, and by staring directly into his opponent's eyes and not hiding behind sunglasses. He also doesn't let wins or losses affect his game. He even enjoys some of the losses. Proof of that was shown during the NBC show Poker After Dark, where after a $400,000 loss, he said, "I like it when I lose so much I can barely breathe. That's the feeling that I go for. I'm addicted to that feeling." Ivey, of course, is also addicted to winning, and once admitted to betting up to $1 million per hand on a craps game, and winning 7 times while doing it. Workers in Las Vegas also say Ivey is one of the most generous tippers of all time. As Ivey's success grew through the years, he chose to stay somewhat out of the spotlight, letting his game do most of the talking. And in 2014, at the age of 38, he won his 10th World Series of Poker tournament, becoming the youngest player at the time to do it. Ivey's made over $100 million in poker games, business ventures, and endorsements. And in 2015, he was the first professional poker player to receive mainstream recognition in a Chrysler 300 commercial. But Ivey's rise to success has come with some controversies. In 2011, he was involved in what has now been called the Black Friday of poker, when the U.S. government seized the domains and shut down the operations of 3 of the biggest online poker sites, including Full Tilt Poker, which at the time had been Ivey's sponsor, using Ivey's name and face to promote the brand. After the government shut down Full Tilt, the company didn't have enough money to pay back all their online poker players. Ivey went public early on in the scandal, stating his disappointment of the way Full Tilt handled business. It was later determined Ivey had no knowledge of the day-to-day activities at Full Tilt, and that he was innocent of any wrongdoing. He even chose to sit out the 2011 World Series of Poker in respect for the players who had their money frozen due to Black Friday. Eventually, though, all the Full Tilt players were repaid their money. Then, in 2012, 2 of the biggest casinos in the world accused Ivey of cheating them out of over $20 million while playing baccarat. Both casinos accused Ivey of edge sorting, which is when a player can recognize small imperfections on the backside of playing cards. Ivey, however, maintains he did not cheat, and that he used advantage play, which is when a player exploits weaknesses in the casino's house while playing to win. Advantage play is used by many gambling players, and it is not considered illegal. But in 2017, Ivey lost both court cases and was asked to give back the money he had won, a decision Ivey later appealed. But despite all the controversy, in 2017, Ivey was elected into the Poker Hall of Fame at 40 years old. Today, Ivey still plays in poker tournaments, but not nearly as much as he did in his early years. He's branched out to other ventures and spends time teaching others how to become great poker players. He's also involved in charitable work through his Budding Ivey Foundation, a nonprofit organization created in the memory of his grandfather. Ivey has stated in many interviews that he feels lucky and blessed to have had such an amazing career playing poker, and he reminds people that hard work and practice is his only secret. This never-give-up attitude, combined with his strategic gameplay, is why I feel Ivey will always be considered one of the greatest poker players of all time.